The bankers are running scared right now. While you were busy enjoying your weekend, and I certainly hope you were, stuff is hitting the fan in the United States banking system right now. They are trying to keep it quiet to protect themselves, not to protect you. I repeat, they are trying to keep this hidden from you to protect themselves, not you. And it's going to be a bloodbath if you're not prepared. So we'll get into all of these details in a second. But first, here's some context. How many of you remember last year, it's like an anniversary right now, when Silicon Valley Bank suddenly collapsed?
A rough week for the banking industry.
The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. The second biggest bank collapse in U.S. history.
Treasury didn't know what to do about it. They couldn't agree on how to handle it. They flip-flopped on their position. Here was my report from 11 months ago. Here you can tell I hadn't slept much. I was watching all of this crap hit the fan. I mean, look at my beard, for crying out loud. It is bad. So this morning, we had Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, come out and say one thing, and then a few hours later, sources saying now that the Treasury is going back on that and going to say something completely opposite. You know that's bad news. Within the same few hours, there's a major pivot on monetary policy. So can Treasury handle it when it's a seemingly isolated incident? Perhaps. The mainstream media wants you to believe that this was an isolated incident. Here was CNBC this week saying, well, it seems that all Silicon Valley Bank fallout was just an isolated incident, nothing to worry about.
It was more of a one-off than it wasn't it, Leslie?
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable, Joe. I think we could probably say that, although, of course, we're seeing cracks form once again a year later.
You can't make this up. Hours after that CNBC report hit, New York Community Bank, on the verge of collapse, announced it's receiving bailout money to stay afloat. Bailout money? I thought we were done with bailouts. Oh, but no, we aren't.
A struggling regional lender, New York Community Bank, is receiving a billion-dollar lifeline from several groups, including one involving former Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin.
So, isolated incidents? Nothing to see here? Do they think you're stupid? It wasn't isolated at all to Silicon Valley Bank. Signature Bank collapsed then in March of 2023, and then First Republic collapsed in May of 2023. And now this. Gerald Celente, who founded the Trends Journal, has been forecasting the collapse of these banks over the past year, and he says we are being played like fools.
It's already happening with the New York bank over here. They're going to make up something. They're going to make up something. And again, they say that they're covered for $250,000. You're not going to be covered for anything. This thing is going to go down big. There's no stopping it.
So New York Bank is one thing, but again, what happens when they all start failing? Sounds crazy, right? All the info you need, though, to see it is right in front of us right now.
The banks are going to go bust. They're going to call like a bank holiday or something. You're not going to be able to get your money out, and they'll come out with something new, a digital currency, because they're going to go from dirty cash to digital trash.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned the Senate Banking Committee 3 weeks ago that this was coming. Asked about all of these commercial mortgages that were about to come due, will we see bank collapses, she was asked?
So there is concern that in stressful market conditions, we could see the failure of one of these. And as you said, this has become very, very significant.
So Yellen says, quote, I hope and believe that this will not end up being a systemic risk to the banking system, end quote, at this meeting in February. So she hopes? Hoping is a good strategy, right? Yes, banking collapses are coming. And now the latest bombshell from the Fed this week. Jerome Powell admitting the terrible truth in front of Congress. Bank failures are coming, and he is preparing you.
This is a problem that we'll be working on for years more, I'm sure. There will be bank failures, but this is not the big banks. If you look at the very big banks, it's not a first-order issue for any of the very large banks. It's more, smaller and medium-sized banks that have these issues.
Guys, they are telling us this through clenched teeth. What is coming? Powell indicated that the risk is tied to small and mid-sized banks, and there's no systemic risk to the banking sector posed by the potential collapse of major institutions, he said. Okay. So all of your small banks in your small towns are finished. Get your money out now, is what he's saying. They want this to happen. They don't want small banks. They want Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Chase Bank controlling everything. We've been warning for a year that this was coming. But you'll say the FDIC. They'll cover everything, right? As soon as the bank fails, the FDIC estimates how much that bank failure will cost the Deposit Insurance Fund, and then it covers it. Everything will be fine, right? Wake up. No, it won't. The FDIC is only set up to cover one-off bank problems, one-off bank failures, not the entire system. Leaked video from an FDIC meeting captured this perfectly, where they admit on camera it's a house of cards and they won't be able to cover it all.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank?
I mean, it's a little bit conflicted, right? I mean, it's important that people understand they can be bailed in, but you don't want a huge run on the institution. But they're going to be. And it could be an early warning signal.
So these guys are lying to you in public, but behind closed doors at a meeting, they're admitting that they'll do this. They'll do this on a Friday after the banks close, and you'll be screwed. And you'll have all weekend to sort of stew about it. And this week, Bank of America issued a stunning message. The U.S. is adding trillions to our national debt through bailouts and money printing, and the U.S. dollar is set to collapse. That from Bank of America. We can't afford it. By the way, we can't talk about all of this without talking about China. Bill Clinton and Barack Obama pushed all of our manufacturing, our energy production and processing over to China and Russia. The globalists don't want you to know that their whole dream has failed. It was a good idea for the last 40 years. It has totally failed. The U.S. is busy digging its grave right now. China is watching and just announced plans for a massive stimulus to bring record investments to China. A GDP growth of 5%. It doesn't matter if it's propped up by stimulus because investors will dump U.S. treasuries and dive heavily into Chinese special bonds at a rate we've never seen before, while U.S. banks collapse and Americans lose their life savings. Pay attention to what they're not showing you guys, what they're not telling you, and pay attention to what the headlines are trying to tell you. What these globalists are hiding right now is devastating. So that's the news update part of today's video, and with all of those big pieces out of the way, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, which is tied directly to China and the Chinese monopoly on mineral processing and manufacturing. I want to lay the groundwork for the most pressing theme of this decade, and that is the commodities super squeeze. You probably haven't heard much about it. It's the global race right now to basically rewrite and renegotiate trade and supply chains that revolve around precious minerals and all of our energy requirements to move forward for the next 30, 40 years, especially those that expose the United States and its allies to the vulnerabilities that they've allowed to occur during the last Clinton and Obama years that are now coming back to haunt them big time. I mean, like uranium being processed fully by Russia and then sent to the United States for us to use in our nuclear power plants. Like, that is actually happening. One of the most critical examples I can tell you about, though, today is rare earth elements and what are monopolized by China. Another one in this value chain right now is lithium, of which the United States only has a few working mines, no processing capabilities. We've outsourced it, none. We rely on all of it from China, just like we rely on all of our uranium processing from Russia. This is madness. I mean, the same goes for nickel production. This all makes zero sense. Super squeeze reality is a problem because depending on Latin American stability or China's stability, it's not something that Washington can afford right now, and they can shut it off in the blink of an eye. But what the U.S. has been excelling at the most, in the most incredible way over the past 20 years, is technology. So I was racking my brain about how can I marry the commodity super squeeze that we're experiencing right now and this anti-globalization move with the technology supremacy that we have in the United States. Is there sort of an anti-globalist play that I could invest in? And after a year of due diligence, I had a lightning bolt moment. And that's our sponsor today on the show. It's Hertz Energy. Here is their ticker on your screen. Write this down, because this company is a lithium play, it's a uranium play, and a technology play all in one. That's why I wanted to bring this to you. I dare you to find another company that has three distinct ways of benefiting from the immense deglobalization of the commodity supply chain that we desperately need right now in the United States. And at the same time, a technology boom in the United States. You've never heard of a play like this before. Everyone's been trying to make money off of globalization, right? The idea that we don't have any borders at all. What I'm starting to say is we need to start asking how we can make money off of deglobalization. This is the future, my friends. I'm telling you, we need to focus on our own borders, our own manufacturing, bringing our own supplies and processing back to the United States. That's deglobalization. Sorry, Bill Clinton. Sorry, Barack Obama. Now, the founder of this company that I'm talking about totally gets it, okay? His name is Mali. He's the CEO. He's also the CEO. And he's not only seen this firsthand, the emergence of the James Bay region in Quebec as the mecca for hard rock lithium discoveries, but he's also benefited personally. He's staked 2 incredibly prospective properties in that same region and taken them public through Hertz Energy Company, okay? In this generation, we've come to learn many new words and many names that are completely new to the world, and like in dictionaries, right? Yahoo, Google, Uber, Facebook, Instagram, Bing, Google, YouTube, Snapchat, things like that, right? Selfie, tweet, influencer, all that stuff. So those are a few new words in the internet related world. But for the mining and exploration world, there are 2 new words that you probably have never heard of before, but they're incredibly important. Spodumene and pegmatite. Yes, spodumene and pegmatite. Those 2 are the minerals that make up the hard rock component of lithium. Now, the lithium company saw an 1,100% rally in 11 months. And I don't have to tell you about the potential in uranium stocks because you already know about them. In this channel alone, I gave you an early chance to examine a company that has surged over 1,000% since I told you about it. Many of you emailed me and told me that you'd made a lot of money off of that one. Great, I'm glad to hear it. But you guys took action about it after I told you about it. You guys did your research on it and you took action. So I always say that's on you, okay? I just told you about the company. I showed you the data. You guys did your own homework on it and you made investments and you made a lot of money. That's great. That's on the mining side. Now on the technology sector, I need to look no further than a company that Mali, the CEO of Hertz Energy, founded that surged 5,000%. And so over the past few months, when I was doing my own due diligence on Hertz Energy, this under the radar gem, I came across this important piece that I wanted to read to you. Now this is from Mali, and it shows me and you and anyone else that this is the future and we have a real shot here with Hertz Energy. So I'm just going to quote what he has to say here. He says, quote, "I wanted to give you a summary of my capital markets experience," he says. "I have done numerous public company deals and had excess of $2 billion in market valuation with various public companies and deals that I have launched. I was involved with iron ore," he says, "and that company went to a $2 billion market cap. I founded and took a company public that develops concealed weapons technologies." He says, we had a $600 million market cap in the first 2 years. He then says, "I launched a company that developed a breathalyzer for cannabis and had a $500 million market cap after only raising $8 million. So all I can say is that after crashing 85%, lithium has now become a major deep value discounted sector. I'm showing you a company that is managed by a highly competent, serially successful entrepreneur in a prime jurisdiction that he knows extremely well. And the company is also developing a patent pending technology to lower the cost of extraction with global commercial appeal if successful. This is when the winners shine. Look into this company right now. Again, here is their stock ticker on your screen. Go out and do your own due diligence. Many of you will write to me saying, "Hey, where can I buy this stock?" You need to use one of the bigger brokerages like E-Trade or TD Ameritrade. You can't use like one of the small ones like Robinhood, okay? Anyway, do your own homework, protect your money with what's happening right now in this banking sector, and we will see you real soon.